What can you do to kind of jumpstart the offense earlier? What do you see from those slow starts?
Yeah, we just got to find a rhythm. And initially it's just about, the first down, and really I think you just got to think really short term of like, okay, what can we do to get the first one going, and then we can roll a little bit. So, obviously the last 2 weeks hasn't been great with our first drive, and that's something that we got to continue to look at, continue to improve upon.
Brian, are you aware that you've become sort of like a focal point for criticism when things don't go well on offense?
For me, I don't really pay attention to all of the outside stuff, but I think that's the nature of the job. It's very simple. Call the plays that work, and when they don't work, that's ultimately my responsibility, right? So, I accept that with open arms, and for me, that's I'm never going to waver. I'll always remain confident and steady with our approach.
On the flip side of that, on the flip side of that, your name's coming up now in head coaching rumors. I can't imagine that will slow down if the team keeps winning. How do you deal with it?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you control what you can control, and ultimately what I can control is how we get ready to play each and every week, and going through our process and making sure that we're putting the guys in the best position to be successful, and we're giving our team a chance to go out there and win every single week. So, there is always outside noise and stuff outside of the building that is far beyond your control. And, for me, it would just be a complete waste of energy to even worry about it. We got enough going on here where my focus and attention is way more pressing.
When it comes to those two sides of the spectrum, how do you talked about insulating yourself from it. Is that something you've always had the ability to do, or is that something you've learned with age?
No, it's something that I think for me personally, I've always been able to do that, even going back to my time as a player. And, when you play this game and when you coach this game, criticism is a part of the deal, and it's not going anywhere. For me, I never take it personally. I always want, us to perform at an elite level on a consistent basis, week in and week out, and I think that's a part of it. But being criticized does not affect me in one way or the other. I think for me the biggest part is do the people in this building have the confidence and trust that we can go out there and execute and play to our best each and every week and go out there and try to win football games.
Follow up on Ruth's question, how many of the first plays are scripted, or obviously I know you have some leeway within that, but how many of those plays?
Yeah, there's generally a script, and we spend a lot of time on openers and things that we like, but I do think when you mix that with what the defense is doing and trying to figure out what their game plan as well, becomes a little bit of a chess match, so to speak. So for me, it'll always be about adjustments, right? And how can you find the next answer? So, when you script these openers, obviously you want them to be really successful and you want to go down and score. But a lot of times too, I think one of the key components is what kind of information are you finding for later in the game, and what kind of information are you finding to help you adjust and help you put your players and in the best situation possible. So I think it's a mix. Obviously the last 2 weeks for us haven't been great. There's been times where we went right down the field and scored on the opening drive. And, obviously we went 3 and out the first drive in this past game against Buffalo. So, for us, we always want to just be cognizant that we're putting ourselves in a good position to start.
It's either feast or famine, too. Can you explain why that's been that way? Like 3 are out or touchdown, drive the touchdown. Have you guys noticed that trend?
Yeah, I think just, it really comes down to moving the chains and putting yourself in a position to get the first down. And, I think when you think of it a little bit, right, in the macro versus the micro of like, all right, we're gonna go down and score. But sometimes it's like it's just as simple as putting all your focus on how can we get these 10 yards, right, to get it going, and then you can get into some different things, and then get an opportunity to run more plays. And obviously, the more plays we run, the more opportunities our guys have to make plays. And that's something that we just have to really be aware of.
Speaking of 49ers defensive line, what kind of challenges do they present?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
49ers defensive line, I mean, it seems like they're a lot like your defensive line, very deep and talented and everything. How tough is that,
Well, they have a great unit, and obviously they have a lot of resources across the defensive line. And, we played them last year, and they were very, very talented. They play hard. They're extremely fundamentally sound. It'll be quite the challenge. And, I'm sure our guys are really excited for the opportunity to go out there and play on Sunday.
Rewinding to your talk about being able to handle criticism, dating back to your playing days, did that come naturally for you, or is that from playing quarterback at a major sort of college level?
Yeah, I think it's both. It could be a personality trait, and I think you learn just certain things through experience. And for me, I think it's really about trying to analyze what's really important, and just be very, very matter of fact about, okay, if something isn't working, what is the answer? And be really, really solution based. And that's just kind of how I live, my life, is to find solutions and problem solve and be able to do things like that. So, I guess to answer your question, it's probably both. I've obviously had that experience, and a little bit how I'm wired as well.
In some ways on that, in terms of coaching and building an offense with Jalen, coaches might have an offense where there's one check to go to. Seems like you guys give him a lot of options.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of trust from your end for him to do that, and also from him to do that. Does that come from your experience as a quarterback too, or in what ways does that work for you, and how does that process play out? Yeah,
well, we do give Jalen a lot of ability in terms of how we built this system over the last 3 years, and having some freedom, to get to certain things based on how the defense is playing. And I think, one of the things when you build a system is you want to have answers, right? You want to have answers for specific defenses or specific looks that you can take advantage of, and be able to get to those. And, with Jalen being the type of player that he is, we can do some unconventional things and some things that are probably not as traditional as people are probably used to seeing, because he has such a unique skill set and ability. So, I've always said, like, when you have people that have rare traits and ability to do stuff like that, it's not a bad thing to lean into that. And, I think that's something that we've obviously done here for the last couple of years, and it's worked.
What happened on the fumble?
And are those things typically things that happen during the game that you need to see in order to make a correction forward in that way?
Both. I mean, it can happen either way. Like sometimes, going in, and sometimes defenses will play differently, and you got to adjust accordingly in the game. So, to me, it happens. It happens both ways.
What happened on the fumble, the exchange fumble between Jalen and?
Yeah, we just had an RPO play, and we just gotta execute it better. Just mishandled the exchange. There was one of those plays where it could have been a pass, it could have been a run. They pressured into it. The defense made a really good play.
The horizontal passing game, what do you like about it?
The horizontal passing game?
Yeah.
What do you mean by it?
As far as there's a handful of third downs this year where you're trying. I guess you're trying to get guys in space or get blockers in front of them.
You saying like behind the line of scrimmage, like those type of plays? Yeah. Well, like philosophically, I think one of the things is you talk about balance, right? And you want to make the defense cover every blade of grass, right? Horizontally and vertically. And, when you do have players on the perimeter like we have that are really, really dangerous with the ball in their hands, you know, those plays can turn into pretty explosive plays, and you just create one-on-one opportunities in space with dynamic people with the ball in their hands. Now, conversely, like all of those things aren't always created equally, right? Because sometimes they're an extension of the run game, you know, and you might have to, if those might get you out of a bad run, otherwise you might have had to run for a negative gain. And so while it may be like a 2-yard gain or a 3-yard gain, it may have gotten you out of a -2 run. So they're not all built the same, you know, and how you deploy them, but I think it's a necessary part of making the defense have to cover the entire length and width of the field.
Jalen mentioned the spark that DeAndre Swift has given you guys in the last couple of weeks. I guess how valuable has he been, both because of what he's able to do in the run game, but also how versatile he is? Yeah,
DeAndre's been awesome. You know, he's been a pleasure to have. He's an unbelievable person. He plays extremely hard. He's been really, really productive. He's been very, very versatile for us. You know, can't say enough great things about DeAndre. And, you know, he's somebody who I've always had a ton of respect for, even going back to his days at Georgia when we play those guys. He's a fantastic player, even better person. And, you know, I'm happy for the success that he's having.
Two more, please. Two more. The walk-off play, she sort of had that motion that was going to be maybe a bubble part of it, and Jalen obviously ends up with quarterback draw. So when is that decision made? What is he looking at on that particular play?
Well, like, you know, just offensively, like all of these different plays that we run, they all have multiple options. And, you know, the play could play out a number of different ways based on what's presented to you defensively. So, you know, for us, we obviously have our read keys and where our eyes should be on certain plays and certain formations. And those guys did a great job of executing that play versus a zero pressure. And, you know, hats off to Jason and Jalen and entire offensive line and all those guys of making sure that that we executed that and got in the end zone.
Jalen's first or second in a bunch of statistics when trailing in the second half or overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a defining characteristic that makes him rise in those moments when behind?
You know, I think the true testament, you know, of not only Jalen, but a lot of people in this building is confidence and having that feeling of never wavering, being just really steadfast and trusting your preparation, that when your team needs you most, you're going to be at your best. And, you know, I think that is a quality that a lot of people in this building have, a quality that Jalen has for sure. And, you know, it serves you well when you get into these tight competitions where, you know, it's a dogfight until the very end. And, you know, for us, the last couple weeks, there's never been any panic. It's been very matter of fact in terms of, okay, this is what we need to go do to go win the football game. Let's go do it. And, you know, I know watching the game and talking to my mom after the game, you're going to give me a heart attack, after these wild, crazy finishes, right? But, like, you know, when you see the guys on the sideline, there's no panic, there's no stress, there's only action. And that's what it has to be about. And, you know, for us, we got the right type of people in the building, I think, that thrive when those moments arise.
Go ahead, last one, Chris.
Earlier in the season, you guys had issues when it came to the red zone, but now in red zone efficiency, you guys are like 13 and 15 in the last 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
What do you attribute to that change in success down in that area? And what are those conversations like to try to find out now?
Yeah, well, again, it's action-based, right? So, you know, ultimately our job is to be problem solvers. And this thing is constant weed picking, right? There's never going to be a moment where it's like, okay, guys, we got it made. Everybody just sit back and relax. There's always going to be something that pops up. There's always something that we're going to continue to try to work on and get better at. And we talk so much about having a growth mindset, right? And being able to identify problems, but more importantly, solve problems. And, you know, I just can't give enough credit to our players and how they've attacked, how they've executed at a really, really high level in the red zone, and just understanding like how important, you know, scoring touchdowns is down there. I mean, it's a huge part of us having success offensively. The difference between kicking field goals and scoring touchdowns. I mean, it's other than that and turnovers, those are two of probably the most important things that you can talk about in terms of offensive football having success. And, you know, something that we made a focal point on. We weren't very good at it at the beginning of the year, but guys kept working, kept fighting, kept climbing, and, you know, turned it into an actionable item.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.